Hello and welcome. We are in New York for Swift Business Forum, and I'm now joined by Douglas Merrill, who is the former CIO of Google and the founder and CEO of ZestFinance. Thank you for joining me, Douglas.
Thanks for having me.
So let's start with ZestFinance. What does it do?
So ZestFinance sells tools to financial institutions to allow them to make better loans, particularly serving thin file or no file borrowers. And we do that using machine learning techniques that I and others built at Google.
So you obviously saw a gap in the market in terms of what ZestFinance can offer to banks when it comes to risk assessments. What are the other areas where banks continue to be bad at? Top three.
Top three areas that banks are bad at. That's a little bit of a target-rich environment because banks are currently the second least popular industry in the world in the United States, directly ahead of the United States federal government, which is not exactly a high bar right at the moment. So I think banks do pretty poorly at customer service. So I feel like customers are numbers to banks, and at very few times you feel like, oh, hey, I'm me. I get, talk to me the way I am. Two, I think they do quite poorly at security. Because they do poorly at security, they keep adding additional security cruft on top, which just makes the user interaction more and more painful. And finally, banks have, since the crisis, sprinted away from risk, which has left 40% of Americans, 85% of Chinese, and a potential percentage of people in the UK without adequate bank coverage at all, and that's simply unfair and immoral.
So do banks realize that they need to look at innovation and at what innovation means in a different way?
Is there too much innovation? I think probably not, but that's probably not the symptom that actually occurs. When people talk about too much innovation, what they're probably saying under their breath is, I actually want none. And so anything is too much. So that's a sort of a signal of a different disease, if you will. When I was still at Google and I would go around and talk to people would come up to me and ask me questions like, oh, how much should I spend per person in free lunch? And I would be like, I don't know, how much do you want to spend? No, I want to make sure I spend the right amount to make sure we get innovation from our lunches. I'm like, that's not why we did that. We did lunches for two reasons. One, because we wanted people on campus, and two, because it meant that you were sitting at tables with people you didn't work with every day. And so you got some cross-fertilization. In fact, we chose the tables specifically such that it was unlikely that you could just cram one team onto one table. And it was that cross-fertilization that was the value of the free lunch, not the free lunch itself. So no, dude, I have no idea how much you should spend, but you should probably think about why you are doing it. And in my experience, one of the things that kills innovation is that people find the surface feature and then sort of lose sight of the substrate that is actually what matters.
So are banks realizing that they've been getting it wrong when looking at what innovation really means?
We've been lucky to deal with a lot of banks at ZestFinance, all of whom have said, hey, we're trying really hard and we don't know how to do this or we don't know how to do that. I think that acceptance is the first step, right? And I think that's a great sign. You're starting to see some banks do really kind of interesting things, and there's some new segments in the markets that are rising. But I don't think we yet have an entire industry phalanx of people sailing into the future, where the future is clearly going to be different credit models, different product mixes, and different UI to handle customers.
So we are at the acceptance stage, and perhaps moving on to the next one may take some time. Thank you for your comments, Douglas.
Thank you for having me, it was great.